Kaliyuga 5111 Shri Virodhinama Samvatsara Maghamasa Krishna Paksha Padyami Aslesha Nakshatra 31st day of the last day of January 2010 Bharavasa Sunday. Welcome you all for this Maitri Milan session. Before I take up the shloka, a small little story from the Puranas. Prahlada to say the word Prahlada, Vishnu comes in the form of Nrsimha and he vanquishes Hiranyakashipa. And then Prahlada was a small little kid, and then he missed his father. The whole Hahakara was there. Vishnu pacifies him and gives him whatever that he wants. I give you everything, and not only that, if you want anything, anytime you want, you just remember me. I will come back, and then take care of you. Don't worry that you don't have father. I am your father, and I am everybody for you. Vishnu goes back to Vaikuntha. In few minutes again Prahlada remembers him, Narayana. And Narayana comes back and says, just now I left, and what is that once again you require? He said, my mind is, everything is all right. Whatever that I wanted you have given me, but only one thing is that my mind is still disturbed, oscillating. Kinchit dolayatam manaha. For that Vishnu says, everything else I can give you, but that you need to take care of yourself. I cannot do anything. To make the mind peaceful, you have to do it. You have to sit down and meditate. You have to do yoga. You have to control your mind. I cannot help it. Vishnu could not help a person like Prahlada. What do you think that somebody can help us? Somebody can give us the peace of mind. Somebody can give us not only just peace of mind. These days, in the market you go, there are people who say that 7 days guaranteed samadhi. There are gurus who give guaranteed samadhi, which Vishnu could not give to Prahlada. What an unfortunate thing it is. It is not that way that you need to do for yourself. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, which we have picked up in our shloka in Raja Yoga Shloka Sangraha. And that is Uddhare Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadaye Atmaivahi Atmana Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuhu Atmanaha. In fact, the words that Krishna uses there are very simple. He did not mince his words. He did not complicate our comprehension. Makes it so easy. Uddhare, that means rise yourself up. Atmana Atmanam. Often people translate that a consciousness or Atma or the soul has been, should be uplifted by the soul. And Natmanam Avasadayet. Let the soul not bring down the soul. All that usage of the word called soul or consciousness, etc., makes it very complicated. But the way that Krishna meant to Arjuna is not to complicate the issue, make the issue very simple. It is in the sense that only you can rise yourself up. Uddhare Atmanatmanam. Nobody can help you to grow up. Atmanam Avasadayet. Natmanam Avasadayet. Don't bring yourself down. Atmaivahi Atmana Bandhuhu. You are the friend of yours. Atmaiva Ripuhu Atmanaha. You are an enemy for yourself. Nobody is your enemy. Nobody is your friend other than yourself. Nobody can improve you. Nobody can destroy you. Only you can improve yourself. You can only destroy yourself. Only the others are in the advisory capacity. They can only show you some path. They can only show you some methodology. But finally, who has to follow? You have to follow. In fact, this simple truth we know right from the very first beginning of the yoga onwards that we see that. In fact, if you are doing the simple practice like Shavasana, you are lying down on the back of your body and that ERT, the instructor says, relax your toes, the best thing that the teacher can say it in a very pleasant voice, relax your toes. But ultimately, who has to relax? You have to relax for yourself. Nobody else can relax for yourself. You are holding it tight, nobody can help you to get out of that tightness. In fact, when you sit in front of the dentist and he says, open your mouth, and then he says, relax your mouth. He cannot do anything but asking you to relax. You cannot. Nobody can help you. In such small little simple things nobody can help you. Do you mean to say that something like in the spiritual journey, that somebody can help you? That's what Krishna says. I can't help you, Arjuna. You have to help for yourself. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Uddharet Atmanatmanam. We are here to help ourselves. If there is a growth that takes place, it is because of you. Or if there is a downward fall takes place, it's also because of us. It is nobody else who is responsible for that. Uddharet Atmanatmanam na Atmanam avasadaye. It is like the way that Krishna gives us a caution. This is the degree of freedom. There is another very important aspect is that not only that nobody can help us to grow up, we have to help ourselves. Anybody you take any help from outside, it is again nothing to do with your growth. It may be with the peripheral. That means to say, somebody can give you money, somebody can give you riches, somebody can give you something else, which is material world. Because everybody else belongs to the material world. You are the spiritual inside. Only thing is that if you really want to have a growth, it is nobody can help do that. It's only you have to do for yourself. That's why Krishna says, Uddhare Atmanatmanam. There is another very important component about this is that we have the freedom. This statement immediately gives us the ultimate freedom that what you are thinking of is there within you. The total final freedom that we think of is within you. It is not from outside. But when we say that we have the freedom, if we say that there is a freedom to do good and not to do bad, it is not really freedom. Freedom is to do good as well as to do bad, then only it is freedom. The freedom is I can protect you, I can also hurt you. If I have that, that is what is the freedom. Only when we have this freedom, at that time when I protect you, only when we have this freedom when I do good to you, that is really the good. Otherwise, nothing good about it. A dog or a cat or an animal does not have that freedom. By choice, the dog itself, by choice, the cow is vegetarian. The cow does not eat meat by choice. These days people feed the cow also by covering the whole non-vegetarian stuff they feed so that they get the advantage, and then the result of it we have seen. So this kind of a thing, the cow by choice is vegetarian. There is nothing really big about somebody who doesn't have a choice. It is the cow's own nature itself is to be vegetarian. Whereas human being, if he becomes vegetarian, then that is something like a growth. And that's what we have seen. For years together, according to anthropology, man was eating meat, raw meat, and over several thousands of years of research in the field of food has emerged the agrarian revolution. And after this agrarian revolution has come, human beings started becoming vegetarian. That means to say, by choice, by growth, by development, human being has started eating vegetarian. So that means to say, the choice is there to do good and bad also. And then by choice, when we have that, that's what is the real freedom. And when we have that choice and we choose to do something good to rise for ourselves, that's what is yoga. This is what is the very definition of yoga, is by choice that you are going to a higher level to growth for yourself. Then why we need to specially pay attention to this? To go downwards, it is very easy. That's why we need to caution you. That's what Krishna cautions you. Na atmanam avasadaye. Don't bring yourself down. Because if you do not apply the choice of doing good, then invariably there is a possibility that you go downwards. Like the way that the water which is in the top of the Himalayas, it looks very shining, bright, beautiful and very tasty, fresh, and you can see the amount of energy that is there in the water when it is on the top of the Himalayas. But left to itself, the water flows downwards. As it flows downwards, slowly you see that the water loses its rumbling. The water loses its sweetness, slowly, and then becomes docile by the time it comes to the plain, and then it flows very quietly. So this flowing downwards, and finally when it reaches the ocean, and then it becomes saltish, so it loses its taste. So it is so easy to go downwards when there is a choice to do good or bad, and when you do not become consciously doing good, then you go downwards. Then it takes a lot of effort, then it takes a monumental effort to see that you are raised up. Like the way that the sun has to come, transform you from the level of water to the steam and take you up into the clouds and put you back into the Himalayas. The same way that going downwards is so easy, and going up is something which requires a conscious effort. And the conscious process of going in the upward direction, like the way that the fire always goes in the upward direction, and that's why the whole practice of yoga is known as tapas. Tapas means tapa. Tapa is nothing but fire which goes in the upward direction. Trying to put ourselves up is what is called as the tapas or the yoga. That's what Krishna says, Uddhare atmanatmanam na atmanam avasadaye. Atmaivahi atmana bandhuku atmaivaripuhu atmana. What is most important thing is, if you are a friend of yourself, then you move in the upward direction. But then often these people put this question that who wants to go downwards? We don't want to go down. We would like to go up. You all would like to go up. After all, I would like to help myself to see that I go up. But then the problem comes up is that we think that we do something for going up, but then it results in downwards because that we don't know that it is not good for us. What we do is what we get it back. What you do is the investment. What you get back is the result. This is what is the law of the world outside. It is based on the karya karana sambandha. That means to say the cause and effect connection. That means to say whatever that is the work that you do, and then what you get back is what is that which takes you up or down. It is like the way that you plant a seed, and the fruits that you get belongs to the seed. It does not depend upon your wish. You may wish that you would like to get wonderful fruits, but if you plant a horrible seed, a bad seed, then you will not get the wonderful fruit. You plant a weed on the ground and you want to get a nice wonderful rose flower, you will not get it. You will have to plant the rose flower, nothing else is possible otherwise. That is what the Indian philosophy talks about. That what you do is like the seed that you plant. You want to scold at others and the others should praise you. How can that be possible? What you give to the others is what you get back. The world is like the way that it reflects you. The world is like the way that you stand in the middle of the ranges of mountains and then you shout standing there, fool, idiot. And then all these 7 mountains which are there around you shout you back that you are an idiot 7 times. Whereas the same thing, when you stand in front of those mountains and shout Om, 7 times you see the Om reverberating in front of you. And that's what the world is all about. World is what you do to the world. If world is a heaven, if you do good to this world, the world is hell if you do bad to this world. That's why Krishna says, don't do bad because you want to help yourself. And you do good in the world, not because that for somebody else, if I do good to the world, that fellow will be better, that fellow will improve. It is not for the sake of somebody else. The world gives you back in its terms. So that's what basically that you are doing good to the world so that you get good in return. Uddhare atmanatmanam. We would like to not believe in anybody else in the world outside, but we want the world to believe in us. How can that be possible? If you believe in others, then you get the belief in return. And with that faith, with that dedication when you go, that's what is known as Shraddha. Have Shraddha in this world. Somehow what happens is that we have so much of attachment with the idea of doing bad, not only for others, for ourselves. In doing bad for others, for ourselves that we grow. If we do something good, like the simple thing is, if somebody shouts at you, you shout back at others. This is what happened in the case of Buddha, and he went to some house to ask for alms, and that person, that lady who came out, looked at Buddha, and looking at his robust figure, after all he was a son of a king, so naturally that Kshatriya body was there. Looking at him, they said, "What is this? You are so strong, so young, and all those things, and you beg for food, and then you are creating all these beggars on the street, and this and that," not knowing that he is the son of the king, that she shouts and slams the door against him. Ananda was there behind, tells him that, "Look, why don't you shout back at her?" Why? Buddha asked with a smile. She hurt you by hurling at various abuses at you. Then Buddha said, "She already hurt me. You mean to say that I should also hurt myself?" Then Ananda didn't understand. What do you mean by I hurt? You hurt yourself. He said that if I become angry at her, because she has already become angry, I become angry at her. Look at what happens to my body chemistry. Look at what happens to my adrenaline. All these things raise up. My BP goes up. My whole body constitution gets disturbed. You mean to say that I should hurt myself? Please understand that whenever you are angry, it is not that you are angry at somebody. Outside what you see is that somebody is angry at somebody, but inside what happens is the person who is angry, he is hurting himself. That means to say, you are an enemy for yourself. Uddharet atmanatmanam na atmanam. Don't hurt yourself. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Buddha's disciple called Moggallaya is one of the greatest learned scholars Buddha had. And he was walking on the street and suddenly he hit a stone, and then immediately the blood was coming out of his feet. At once he sat down there, took the stone in his hand and started caressing that stone. And somebody asked him, "What is that you are doing?" He said that you are hurt by the stone and then you are caressing the stone. They said that I am thanking the stone because I might have done something wrong earlier, and probably that I am repaying for that. And I am thanking this stone. The stone has given him an opportunity to see that that one particular wrong I have done has been eliminated. I am now closer to God. Every time that you meet with something adversitous and then you pleasantly smile, you pardon, you thank that person, that means you are closer to divinity. And that's what is the upward journey. As I said, it is not so easy, it is difficult. It requires an awareness, not anybody else's awareness. It requires your own awareness. I can go on telling several stories like this. Lao Tzu was once, he was walking up the fields, and then there was a fellow who was a farmer. He was shouting at his buffalo all abuses. Lao Tzu stopped him and said, "Why do you shout abuses at the buffalo?" Lao Tzu said, "The buffalo cannot anyway understand, cannot anyway reply, so why should I not shout the abuses?" Then Lao Tzu said that if the buffalo could shout it back at you, at least you would be freed from your overburden of doing negative. Now, the buffalo cannot say anything like that. So all that you have done, the negativity is in your stock. So don't say any negatives, any abuses at the buffalo. And then that fellow understood. And then Lao Tzu went ahead, and that person continued for another 3-4 days. Look at the way for 20-30 years he has trained himself to hurl abuses at the buffalo, and now it has become like so difficult for him not to hurl the abuses. So he continued back to his own self. He started abusing the buffalo as he used to do routine. This is what happens to all of us. For some time that we have a control, but later on the control seems to be difficult for us, and then we go back to the original self of ourselves. And then later on, 6 months later, when Lao Tzu was coming in the same way, and then he saw that this person hurling abuses at the buffalo, suddenly Lao Tzu recognized that this is the same fellow that he advised him not to say abuses. But having seen that same saint coming back, this farmer immediately changed his tone. He said to the buffalo, "My dear buffalo, earlier I would have abused you all these words, but now I am different. I don't do that. My dear buffalo, please follow what I say." When Lao Tzu heard that, he said, "Look, you are not only deceiving this buffalo, but you are deceiving yourself." That means to say, outwardly, you might say so many things, but inside, what you are hurting is something which is hurting you. That is why it is not something that what you do outside. Even you nurture it in your mind. An abuse, a negativity, a bad that you nurture in your mind itself is something which is destroying you. That is why when Krishna says to Arjuna, "Uddhare atmanatmanam atmanam avasadaye atmaivahi atmanabandhu." That means you can only convince yourself deep inside not to have negativity. Now, and how can that be possible? That is possible if you already put yourself in a positive state. If you already put yourself in a state of respect to the world outside. Please understand that this is a sadhana shloka. This is a myth. Sutra that Krishna gives to Arjuna. In the name of Arjuna, it gives us to see that we need to practice. How can we practice that? If you keep yourself at the neutral, then it is easy for you to go to the negative. Put yourself to the positive. Get up early in the morning and think of the things consciously in a positive way. We have such a beautiful thing in our culture that the moment that you meet somebody in the world outside, at once you put yourself in a positive way, say that I am seeing the divinity within you. And that's what is the greeting that we have. And the greeting that Indian philosophy has given is Namaste. Namaste means I see the divinity within you and I respect that. It means actually Namaste is not what you say a child should say to the adult. It is not like that. It is an adult who can say to the child. Can we do that? In fact, very often what happens is that we wait for others should say Namaste to me. Not that I should say Namaste. You take the earliest opportunity to say Namaste so that you see the divinity in the others. Once you start seeing the divinity, then this world looks beautiful in front of you. Whereas look at the way that these days we adapted because we have become secular. That means to say I don't see you at all as a human being. Secular means that I interact with the world which is matter. So that is why we say good morning. That means to say it is nice in the morning. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with me. Why do we have that kind of a thing? In fact, the same thing has been translated more in a personal touch in the North Indian areas. I see a lot of people saying that. I mean, it really gives me such a great joy to hear that people meet and say that Jai Sri Krishna. I mean, you can see that early morning, that whoever that I meet, I see Jai Sri Krishna. Similarly, you see somebody, you say Ram Ram. I mean, that look at this very face of yours, when I look at it, I'm reminded of Ram. The same way, Shiva. What a beautiful idea. That means to say you see the divinity. Adopt anything, it doesn't matter. But see that you rise yourself before anything starts. You start the journey in a positive note. Once you say Jai Ram Ji Ki or Jai Sri Krishna, how can you be angry with somebody? How can you find fault with somebody? Can we not change ourselves that way? Then the interaction becomes smooth. Then the negativity does not happen. By saying Jai Ram Ji Ki, by saying Jai Sri Krishna, what is happening is that you are finding the divinity. It is helping you, not helping others. It is not to help others, but to help oneself. That's what we say, Uddhare atmanatmanam. We have within us this ability to rise, and making use of this ability to rise ourselves, That's what is the practice of yoga. That's what is the practice of sadhana. This is what is Raja Yoga. That's what is the effect that we have to bring about in the day-to-day life. This uddhare atmanatmanam, natman avasadaye. Lot of times what happens is that we hurt ourselves so that the growth takes place. No, respect yourself. Help yourself. Don't hurt yourself. The whole practice of sadhana, yoga sadhana, is not to hurt oneself. Unfortunately, what happened? In the name of religion, the people have developed the hurting oneself. If you hurt outside somebody else, at least that there is a court, at least that there is a police to see that you do not hurt others. There are so many things that happen. But if you hurt yourself, unfortunately, the nature, the culture feels that you are doing something great. You are something extraordinary. In fact, in Christianity, there is one group of Christians called Quakers. And these Quakers, they hurt themselves, they tie themselves with the belt which has got all the thorns, so that the thorns can be pricking them all the time. Then they think that is what is the spiritual growth. Similarly, people do the fasting, people do so many things which hurt themselves, and they feel that that's what is the spiritual growth. Actually, there is no spiritual growth in hurting yourself. There is no spiritual growth in punishing yourself. The spiritual growth is trying to see that you respect yourself. In fact, if you can respect yourself, then only you can respect the others. And a person who takes these things as hurting oneself, how can he respect the world outside? And that's the reason why somebody who takes the spiritual sadhana as a sadhana to hurt himself, torture himself, then he looks at the world outside, and the people do not do that. People do not follow these rigors of spirituality, then such a person says that, look at that fellow, he doesn't follow the spirituality, he is not spiritual. Why? He doesn't do the fasting, he doesn't do the sitting and meditating, he doesn't take the cold water bath, he eats masala dosa. He is not a spiritual person. Like that, people find fault with the others. Why? Because you know that these tortures that you go through. A person in this name of spirituality goes through the tortures is a person. He is not improving himself spiritually, but on the other hand, the practices that he does in the name of spirituality becomes his arrogance. In fact, look at the way that a lot of people in the world outside, they also torture themselves to see something great, something good, so that people will recognize. They don't call themselves to be spiritual. Like if you look at these various shows on the TV today that you have, you find out people who are torturing themselves. You feel like, you are stopping the breath and watching that. They allow vehicles to pass on them, and then they hold their breath, do the kumbhaka, but they don't claim themselves to be like spiritual. The same way that in the Russian circus that you can see people going through all types of contortions, and then you don't call them spiritual, they don't call themselves to be spiritual, but just because that you go through the contortions in your body, why do you call yourself to be spiritual? That means to say basically, all these practices that we do in the name of torturing yourself, in the name of spirituality, it is not that you are growing spiritually, that you become arrogant of all these practices. You become arrogant that you can hold the breath. In fact, I was giving a talk in USA long time ago, and then I was giving them the practices of pranayama, and then I was telling that if you calm down your mind, make your prana peaceful, slow, calm, then slowly your need for respiration will come down so much that 1 minute you can get down the respiration, which is normally around 15-20 respiration. You can bring it down to 1 to 2 respirations a minute, because that you are so relaxed. I was telling like this, one person who was supposed to be a yoga practitioner in the audience, he always used to raise his hand and show me, because I have to refer to the people that, look, this person, his respiratory rate is 1 per minute, and like that. He expected that I should do it. That means even doing the simple practice of pranayama is like to show for the others. It is to show for exhibition's sake. In fact, once I recognized that he wanted that, every time, whenever I was giving a talk, whenever he was there, I would ask him to come onto the stage. Show to everybody that you hold the breath for 1 minute. He was very happy, very grand, grateful. So this is what is the thing. Don't do the practices of yoga to see that they become an outside cover. Arrogance is that outside cover. Deep inside is a spiritual growth. When Krishna says, Buddhare atmanatmanam atmanam avasadye atmaiva hi atmanapantuhu atmaiva ripuhu atmanaha. When he says that you are so subtle, your friend, at a so subtle level, you are your own enemy. You might do all those things like practices of yoga, practices of control, dhyana, all those things. But at the same time, you can become your enemy at the last moment. Nobody can help you that. Once a fellow went to Himalayas and then came back. Friend met him and asked him that what is that you have earned by going to Himalayas for such a long time. This is a story Ramakrishna Paramahamsa told to his disciples, and I am trying to recollect that for your sake. And then he came back. The friend asked, what is that you have earned? For the last 15 years you have been to Himalayas and did meditation and tapasya. What is that you have earned? And this person said, okay, come with me, I will show you what you have earned, what I have earned. And walks with him. And then both of them are walking. They come near the river. And the person who came back from Himalayas, he started walking on the water. And the other fellow friend of him who was there with him, he just looked around. There was a boat. He paid about a couple of annas. Those days annas was a cow. So 2 annas he gave. And with the help of a boat, he crossed the river. And after crossing the river, joined his friend there and asked, how long do we go? You want to show me something? That person said, did you not see that I walked on the water? And this person smiled and said, 2 annas worth 10 years? Is that what you gain? That means to say, after doing all that sadhana, if it is for the sake of outside embellishment, then you are an enemy for yourself. If you take it deep into your heart, that means to say, all this sadhana that we give has to give us what is called as humility, humbleness. Then only we see that we grow ourselves. Then only you are a friend of yourself. Bandhuratma manastasya enatmaiva atmana jitaha anatmanatva shatrutve vartaitatmaiva shatruvatu. That's what is the second shloka. That is the case. Who is the friend? Is a friend is a person who says that who has a control over himself. He is peaceful with himself. Most important thing in the trade of yoga is we become peaceful with ourselves. Once you become peaceful with yourself, then you can spread the peace in the world outside. Today in the world, what we require is this message of peace, not the message of power. Power we have enough in the world outside. Don't translate yoga into power. Translate yoga into peace. When you translate yoga into peace, then you look at the peace within you. When you translate yoga into power, then you only look at yourself as a power, which can be good, which can also be bad. Let the peace decide, let the peace lead the power. Let not the power lead the peace. Please understand that. Today, all this technology has given us enough power, but only thing is that we are robbed of peace. Let yoga give us that peace. That is the message that Gita gives us. Thank you.